Hey everybody, welcome back to the Over Sharon show. I'm joined by my lovely co-host Sharon. It's her show. Her name's in the title. Don't let her fool you. And once again, we're joined with our friend from Greece, Alex, aka OliveTreeBear, and we have a really lovely episode planned for you guys. So I'm excited, but I'm going to turn it over to Sharon and let her take it away.
Yes, because I'm going to read a quote. And Brandon, do you want to pull a card or do you want me to pull a card too?
I don't have any cards here because I'm in my basement.
Okay, well, I have cards.
Yeah.
So I will read and pull. Okay, while I shuffle. I am reading from a book called The Jesus Code that I'm still reading. It's really cool. I am reading a meditation that's from the current chapter I'm in. It says, I have moved from karmic law to spiritual law, and spirit is now making my decisions for me from the highest vision. I feel dramatically different. There is a gentleness combined with an inner strength, a greater sense of peace born of love, and my life is of a higher order. I am now a healing and harmonizing influence for everyone I encounter on my path through life. I think it's really beautiful.
Wonderful, yeah.
Yeah, it really showcases what Jesus or what Christ with that consciousness is. It's all about. It's just about making people around you feel better, basically, at the end of the day, instead of judging them.
Yep. The answer is always love. That is something that my friend said the other day when I went to a Reiki and sound healing meditation, and I got my new mala from my friend Stephanie. It's gorgeous. Well, I got two, actually. They were, I couldn't not. I was very drawn to these mala beads. But yeah. So yeah, somebody said something and then they're like, the answer is always love. And I'm like, yeah, it is.
You witch, how dare you? I'm going to show off too then. I made this for my niece. I'm going to give it to her on Easter. It's a little crystal wrapped in some copper with a bead on top. And if anyone's interested, hit me up because I make these. If you want to support me, you can buy one from me.
Perfect for copper thieves.
It is perfect for copper thieves. Exactly.
Just kidding. Okay, so I am going to pull a card. Here I go. Oh my God, Brandon.
Temperance?
What?
Oh, wow. That's crazy. So, because Temperance is number 14, and this episode is 14.14.
Oh, wow.
That's pretty synchronistic.
Just wicked.
Quickly, what I could say about Temperance is in the order. So there's so many things you could say about any major arcana card. And Temperance is 14, so it's right after Death. And it's right before the Devil, which is 15. So it's in between these two scary cards that everybody knows about. They're like the most famous cards. And it's really just about like a rest in between these two periods that are strifeful, I guess you could say, full of strife. And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about, actually. So we don't really have to say much more about the card, really.
Yeah. So without further ado, I think we should just we should tell you why Alex is here, and then we should let him share. So the reason Alex is here is that he had some very amazing syncs going on in his life while he was watching some of our recent episodes about death, and things were resonating and syncing for him. So I want to just put it out there and say hello to Alex. Hi, Alex.
Hey, good to be with you guys.
Thank you. Awesome to have you again.
It's always awesome to have you on our show. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So please do however you want to share with us about your experience after kind of seeing some of the shows and how that was syncing for you.
Well, I probably won't have the same momentum because, awareness and life and everything is like snakes and ladders. More symbolism there. But, there's always a ladder close. You know, there's always, you know, everything is so close by. I mean, that's the realization I had basically, is that, you know, anything, love, the creator, the meaning of the tarot, everything is right next to us and right in our reach. You know, it's just a matter of perception, really. So, yeah, something really strange happened to my perception, which has never happened before. It just blew open, like a lid just went pow, and I was like, yeah. It was. I don't have the same kind of vocabulary today, but what happened was I was listening to episode 13 and 13.13 with breaks in between because I get distracted by just about anything. I'm just like a cat, you know. So I was going through a very intense part of my life, not as dramatic as losing a loved one, and probably not as stressful as like losing your home, or, you know, or losing your freedom in a great extent, you know. But I was going through this like crazy times where I'm just investing in something that I kind of believe in, but had an itch that maybe I'm not being 100% honest, you know. So this whole thing was like, really, I had a battle in my mind trying to convince myself that I'm living honestly and that I'm aware of my surroundings and I'm aware about my choices and everything. And because of my personal, you know, drama I'm going with my significant other and everything, something happened which hadn't happened since a very, very long time. I mean, and that is crying. So like, to just break out and cry was something that I used to do when I was a teenager, you know, heartbroken. I used to do when I did it like once when I realized that my dad wouldn't be with me anymore. But that wasn't like when he died. That was like a few years later when the realization hit me, you know. And the very last time happened was like 15 years later, exactly 1 week ago. So exactly 1 week ago, I just started crying because of all this pressure buildup. So for me, I just realized that what I was living through all this time was a unique perspective of consciousness, but it wasn't the consciousness. It wasn't truth. It had been this weird dream where we attach ourselves to our personality and we experience the life through the personality. And when you do that, you're always trying to grasp onto understanding, you know, symbols, words, feelings, and something really strange happened. Like when this kind of breakout of crying happened, I found myself to be detached from myself. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I mean, maybe I'm not using the correct terminology, but I was like detached from my observation of reality, which is like, it sounds so trippy. It sounds like an ayahuasca trip or something, but
Indeed,
it was something.
It does.
Yeah, it was very more grounded and more realistic. It wasn't so trippy, like, oh, I'm losing my mind. It was like I looked at them in the mirror and I could see myself looking at myself, and kind of, it was just facing reality that, you know, all these things, like all the music I've been writing, all the logos driven actions and everything have been truth in a sense, but they've been a construct based on my personality, you know? And I was really blown away by that. I'm thinking, okay, so first of all, this is exciting. And second of all, this is a sort of dying process. This is a death, you know, in a very shocking way. So all these things came back to me, and my very, you know, very limited real understanding of the tarot, you know, I'm like, okay, first of all, why is this happening? That's my first question. Is like, no, that's a lie. My question wasn't why is this happening. It was like I was really rejoicing, that it is happening, because it felt so familiar and so like a relief that that nothing can touch me. No. I mean, you could even, someone could attack me, touch wood, but I mean, someone could attack me and kind of injure me and do anything. And I was like in this state of bliss that, this is not even a problem. This is not, what you're going to do to my biological personality or self or sense of self is completely irrelevant to this experience I'm having, being liberated from, just everything.
Wow.
And granted, okay, I've gone kind of, since that day, there've been a few veils being put back gradually, and I have stepped down a little bit from that position, but it's definitely unforgettable. And it doesn't really seem to me like it's a great feat to go back into that moment, even though I have been dealing with drama, personal issues, things that have brought me down, many practical things that kind of obviously, you slightly diverge from experiencing the world in that way. But I think it's something that will never go away. And what kickstarted it, I'm not quite sure, because like maybe a couple of days ago when I first told you about how wonderful an experience it was, maybe I had the vocabulary more, I think I was more fluent in what I was going through.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
I was just going to say,
go ahead, Brian.
Sorry. So you mentioned that you were watching our episodes about death, and our episodes, if you haven't watched them and you're watching the show, we did talk about physical death, but we also talked about the symbolism of death in like what people describe as an ego death. That's kind of what it sounds that you're describing. Yeah. And it's you were identifying with this person who you were up until this point in your life, right? So everything you've ever known and everything you've done was from the point of view of this person who you thought you were. Does this sound right? Like, does this sound like it's on the mark?
It does. Yeah. It definitely does. But I mean, I've fallen into the same trap most people would fall into, is like trying to, since that day, I've been trying to analyze it. And I don't think analysis helps at all, because I seem to be distancing myself from that, that oneness, the more you try to analyze things, the more you bring back your own perspective of experiencing the world. So that's why I might not be as fluent as describing it, but it was definitely a death for sure, and it's still I still believe it's a death, because I've always wondered. I mean, it's like, how does life work? Does it work in chapters? Because I remember distinct chapters in my life. I remember that click from being a teenager to the later years. And then I remember this distinct click when there's the next level, when you're around 27 years old. I've always wondered how come these, levels of change happen suddenly, like when your voice breaks, when you're a teen, and when all these things happen, like from a childhood to a understanding. I've mixed the order up, but you get it, I suppose. So maybe this is a kind of click that was meant to happen for me in a unique way, and it's everything I'm trying to remember at the moment really feels like it's way in the past, So that's another reminder that hammers in the concept of death. It's like I have so many feelings without, no one died, but I mean, this ego death is amazing because it's not a complete ego death, because then I would be probably a saint at the moment. But it's I don't know. It's pure. It's so beautiful. I don't, the more I try to analyze it, the more it doesn't work. It's like trying to remember what it was like, just tripping on an idea or a substance or thoughts. It's just like.
Do you feel like you've leveled up, maybe like you're maybe a better version of your previous self? And that's probably why you can't think about how you were before, because now you have this new view of things.
Well, I've always known that, life is a gift. It's definitely a gift. I think it's a literal gift that I'm in no position to say who gave it to me. I tend to think of it as creation itself. Many people might resonate with the concept that your own self is as ginormous as creation itself, and you gave yourself this gift. So, but either way, to actually realize that this is it, the meaning of life is like, what? What? So what about all these other concepts? It's like, well, they're constructs. You can just go on forever making constructs. But I mean, just that realization is automatically for me a kind of death, and everything follows, because there's a mourning about what you've lived until now. There's a real, it's not even a realization, it's an apocalypse. It's a revealing of that it's, I mean, I'm lost for words.
You're fine. Apocalypse is a great word. The revelation, like a revealing. And like, you think about the book in the Bible that's called Apocalypse, Revelation. It's a revealing. It's probably talking about the same thing, because it's all really deep stuff, esoteric stuff.
Yeah. I've always challenged this thought. I mean, I wrote this track back in 2006, was it, or 07? And the lyrics go as this. They go, this is the moment to be what you came here to become. So I think I'll reuse those lyrics in a new OliveTreeBear song for sure, because I love that.
Yeah,
so
please do.
I've always challenged an apocalypse to happen, Well, granted, I thought it would be like this huge kind of everyone's eyes rolling at the same time and the great light in the sky and everything. Well, that could happen, but everyone's path is, completely different, and you will never be prepared enough for it. You'll never ever be prepared enough for it, because it's it just shatters. It just sheds light on everything you have been and you've been doing. It's like there is honestly no way going back. But what there is like, you can go back to like drinking coffee and kind of dealing with the world, and then jumping on a snake and going down, and then finding the next ladder to get up, up there. And that's in mysticism, that's been a thing which has been, everyone's trying to find shortcuts to do that, and so I'm here with you guys, trying my best to explain how, besides the snakes and ladders effect, it's like how it felt, and how it's an experience of death, but without the emptiness, without the void. You're just, what you have to fall back on is just everything, absolutely everything. It would be cliche for me to say that all is one, but I mean, to me it appears that all is one in a so it is what it is, really. It's just my path, has been for the past 41 years to view life through this perspective, and then and then for some odd reason, I just snapped out of it, and I can't go completely back because I can't camouflage my little fibs or lies or being slightly dishonest anymore. It's just, I suppose it's possible, but I mean, it's not, it's unreasonable, you know, there's no need to.
Right. And I think you were saying, or the way you described everything to me, it was like you were holding these ideas that were basically, you were lying to your own self about what was going on around you, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. I built upon that. I can see it now, how I built upon it, because before I didn't, it was like just a confusion of, you know, me being a good person, a good guy, which is honest. But this bubble broke, and it just revealed all these layers of things that I was saying to others or to myself to convince myself, you know, most of all. And I think I told you something quite funny that, you know, I've been striving for truth for the past 20 odd years, and I became a truther on Friday, which is, yeah, I thought that was kind of cool.
Was mind blowing. Yes.
I became a truther on Friday. It's like, wow, that's profound. It's
when you stopped lying to yourself, that's when you became the truther.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. Maybe we should have done this video back then, you know, because everything was like super fresh for me. And
right.
It was like,
I wish we could have. I really wished we could have. But we didn't have Brandon at the time.
We didn't have Brandon, yeah.
I think you were hiking or something, Brandon. But
Jeremy.
Yeah.
How dare you?
So what do you guys think about I mean, obviously the tarot it's a tool to be able to describe elements of this process, what I went through. But I mean, what I want to ask you guys, what does it mean? Because for me, it means different things, and for consciousness itself, depending on, that's why we have perspectives. That's why we have lives. That's why we experience individuality, is because this is a gift that's been given to us for whatever reason. But I mean, what is this process that many people have gone through? Is it something that is, I mean, I'll say one last thing. I'll tell you guys one last thing. When I was first looking into truth, alternative truths in general, I had this fear that, you know, like the baddie is going to discover that I awoke. You know, it's like, oh, it's like the Matrix or something, like, you know, we're onto him. And in the back of my mind, there has been a tiny bit of fear, which, by the way, I never really believed that I did fear, because I thought I was stronger than that. But now I realize that I've been hiding that under several layers of, you know, I wouldn't say lies, but several layers of
denial, maybe?
Of constructs. Let's just say constructs, various constructs. But now that it's been revealed, there's no need even for fear. There's no need for that as a tool to propel myself further, you know, which is hilarious, because, you know, that's been the underlying thing. You know, it's like, shh, you know, keep it hush hush, you know. And there's no fear because nothing can touch me. I mean, honestly, even like the first death, if and when it comes, it's okay. It's honestly, it's okay. You know, it's okay to go through it. It's okay for your loved ones to go through it. It's good. It's just, it is what it is. It's not, you know, it's not the end of the world, you know. It really isn't.
What is the end of the world anyway?
I don't know. I mean, all this talk about the first death and the second death is like, how many other, you know, according to Enoch, there's like a couple, you know, so it's mind blowing. It's mind blowing that, you know, I'm a guest on you guys on your show, and I'm just sitting outdoors here on this chair, and I'm experiencing. I'm using myself at the moment. I'm utilizing what I have of a vocabulary just to express myself, but I'm not. It's not actually me. I'm just, you know, you're not you. You're just. It's your perspective. Everyone's there. Like there's 7 billion perspectives on Earth. There's not 7 billion separate entities. That's
Allegedly.
to me that seems strange now. So
yeah, I like what you're saying. What I could say is that I think it is about perspectives because you know, everybody has this perspective that basically that they're the center of the universe, right? And I don't mean in a religious way, but just they have this experience where they're born. You know, they have this mother that feeds them. They have a father. They have all these people around them. But everything that ever happens to you, it just happens from the perspective of basically your ego, your point of view. So after a while, I noticed, and this goes for most people, we just have this feeling that we're kind of the center of everything. And this is something we're going to get into later that you're not really taught about, or you're not really taught about how to deal with. So I think what happens is, especially when you get on this path for truth and when lies start to actually hurt you and it's just not who you are anymore, and you kind of just get sick of it, then you just have this, I guess you can call it epiphany or apocalypse, like you said, where you view the world in a different way. And then from that perspective, everything is all one in one sense. And a lot of people report this, like you said, from psychedelics, from drugs, from different experiences they have. Some people fast for this. Like if you think Jesus fasted for 40 days and 40 nights before he was tempted by the devil in the Bible. So I think this is something that, and it's in a lot of other different religions, we talked about this too, or belief systems, where you have this rite of passage. You have this point that you go through where you see things differently. And it doesn't mean, like you said, that all of a sudden now everything's one and forever. It's just that you step out of yourself for a minute and you're able to see how all these lies, and even if you don't lie anymore, that it doesn't matter. Like, who cares if they know the truth now? I'd rather just people know the truth and get it over with. And I know from my own perspective, my own point of view, it caused me the same thing. I fell on the ground crying and laughing at the same time when I had one of my epiphanies, because I was crying. I guess I was kind of just letting out all this emotion that I had bottled up. And then I was also laughing at how ridiculous it was that I was just playing this part, that it didn't even matter. And I had everything so wrong. And I think that's one of the things that I had to say to myself in my instance is I was wrong, man. I was wrong. I just kept saying that over and over again. And it's okay to do that. Like, I think that's part of the self-care. It's okay to be wrong about things. And that's part of the self-love. I think we're, like I said before, we're really taught in this society to just go with the flow. Everything is material. It's all about materialism. It doesn't matter about all this other stuff. Other people don't exactly matter. You know, they'll say that to you. But in my own experience, from my point of view, I was more worried about myself, you know, how things were going to affect me. I didn't really care as much until it built up to this certain point. And the way that I like to highlight it, and I talked about this in my book, actually, it was like a snake shedding its skin, or like a crab, when a crab or a lobster goes through this molting process, the outside skin, like when I actually had a snake, you could see the eyes would start to get hazy. And that's how you knew it was going to shed, because the skin just started to come off and it just wasn't a part of it anymore. That old part, that old exterior wasn't working and it needed a new one. And this is a lot of people, a lot of different religions talk about this. And we use the tarot to highlight things like this. And it's not that we have all this belief in the tarot itself as a concept. I think we just found that it's a tool that could be used to highlight all these cycles, because really, to me, it just reminds me of all cycles. It's just like you were talking about the book of Revelation, Sharon, or the Apocalypse, or whatever it's called, in different, you know, in Greek and all this stuff. It highlights different cycles. So the book could be taken literally. There could actually be some kind of end of the world that happens, and there's people that are judged And that's the big cycle, right? But then there's all these little cycles that no one tells you about. And it's all usually happening internally. It's within. You're judging yourself. You're saying to yourself, I can't do this anymore. And then it gets to a point where it doesn't matter anymore because, like you said, you have this death. It's like a death of the way you were, and it dies, but it's a peaceful death. It's okay because now you see that there's a better way to go forward in the world. And there's just different things become important to you. You know, I've used the example of a drug addict before, where I had a friend of mine who was addicted to heroin and he almost died. And he had this revelation that he's like, wow, if I die, because he had 2 kids and he was married, he's like, if I die, these kids are going to grow up without a dad. And in his situation, he had a real piece of shit dad that used to beat him. And he was an alcoholic and all this stuff. Like, that's how I know him. I've known him since we were really young. He used to come over to my house and sleep over. You know, he'd come over with all these bruises and stuff. And like, I'd go to his house one time, like the desk was smashed. Like his dad hit it with a baseball bat, you know, it's like, so he all of a sudden had this whole epiphany, realization. He's like, wow, I'm on the same track to do this to my kids. And if I keep going the way I am, it's going to happen. And then the drug, the allure, the hold that it had on him broke, really. I mean, it didn't totally break. Then he went to rehab and, you know, he was able to work through it, and he's doing fine today, which is great. I just want to report that because I always like half tell stories and then don't tell the rest. But so I think it's that same kind of feeling that you experienced. And yeah. What do you think, Sharon?
Yeah. I mean, I'm still learning about all the concepts and the archetypes and all the symbolism with tarot. But yeah, it is just a tool. Like you said, it's not like we're saying this is the end all be all for, but you know, just like you use a hammer to, you know, hammer in a nail or whatever, to build a house. There are other tools you can use to build a house too.
Or you can use a hammer to smash somebody's head in too, you know, and that's something we wanted to talk about also is this, a lot of people, and I was the same way. I didn't associate with the tarot or astrology or any of these different tools at all. I thought it was all bullshit, or I thought it could be evil, or it could bring bad things upon you if you used it. And what I realized after studying what government actually is, what certain religions, what that word actually means, and how it has to do with mind control and controlling people's actions. That's when once I broke that code, I was able to see that, like you said, all these things like tarot or, you know, astrology or hermeticism or mystical thoughts and all this stuff, it is just a tool, and it is used in a lot of ways for evil. So we'll say that, like, there are a lot of tarot readers that keep people on the edge of their seats. They just give them enough information so they have to keep coming back to them, right? It's another system of control. But there's also other people that use the tarot to look at the cycles in their own life and how there's opening cycles, closing cycles. There's different things that we go to. And symbolism is just another language that's used. And it's a language, the reason I like it so much is because it's a language that is more, once you start to study it and get into it, it's more about talking to yourself and communing with yourself or the higher power or whatever, you know, however somebody wants to put it, because you could see for yourself and it makes sense to you. You're not going to a church elder, you're not going to somebody else above you that holds the power and they're telling you how to live your life. You're actually figuring it out for yourself. But while you're doing it, like you said, you can't lie, because when you lie and you're misleading people or whatever it is I'm not saying you were doing that, but when people are getting misled, it just comes back and it starts to hurt you, and you don't want to experience that anymore. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring this whole concept up about symbolism and the tarot and stuff, because I feel that that's really the crux of it. It's kind of, we were talking last night about this. I was talking to Sharon and I was saying, listen, if you were Constantine and you were this Roman emperor and you're like, all right, all these people in my kingdom or whatever, in my realm, my empire, they have this whole switch about how they're believing it. You know, there's a lot of Christians. There's a lot of people talking about this guy, Jesus or about Christ and all this stuff. Well, how am I gonna get a hold around them? Well, this guy allegedly, had all these councils, like a Council of Nicaea and all these different things. And these people who were the heads of the state, they sat down and they talked about these different ideas. And they kicked a lot of these ideas out. You can even think about like the apocryphal texts and the different books that were supposed to be in the Bible, like the Book of Thomas and the Book of Enoch and stuff that were left out. Now, if you look at these books and you look at the tarot with, if you look at it from a place of no influences, and you look at it for what it is really, you could see how it's actually just a system where a person could depend on themselves or, help other people, but it's a way that they could navigate life, navigate all these questions that we have about life and all these things that happen to us without having to depend on an outside higher source. And I don't mean like God, but I mean like an outside another person, right? Like a group of people like the Pope or your priest or whatever it is. You don't have to rely on them as much. You can actually start to navigate life for yourself, and you can live in a way where you feel comfortable, but it's also in accordance with the golden rule, with karma, with natural law, with God's law, however you want to say it. So it's, if you can view it from that point of view, then you could see why people like Constantine and a church bishop or somebody that has this this desire to control, you can see why they would want to demonize it. Because then at that point, you're not going to them anymore. And there's a concept called Archons, and this is something I want to bring up. It's actually where the word anarchy comes from. If you break it down, it's an and archon. An archon it's just like an angel, but it's really the inversion of it. So if you think of an angel is a being that's there to help you on your path and to get your back, kind of like a guardian angel. Well, an archon is somebody that's in the way. I guess you can even say like a demon, something like that. It's this force that's in the way. It's in between you and the truth, but it's trying to keep you from the truth. But if you think of it in the way of like, say the truth is a magnet and you're pulled to it, you're going to come to it anyway. And most people are going to automatically recognize truth when they hear it, and they're going to be drawn to it. But if somebody could get in there and say they show like they could fit like a slide in there, like a rose colored slide or like a purple colored slide or wherever it is, now you're going to see the truth and you're going to know it, but there's going to be this haze in the way. And that haze is going to bring doubts in your mind, and it's going to cause you, and I've seen a lot of people, and I'll just talk about my case. It caused me before to just do things differently in life, right? I had different actions because I thought I was going to go to hell. I thought if I sinned, I was going to go to hell. So then I would set my life up in a certain way where at the end of the day, you could say, yeah, you're still living in accordance with natural law and you were still trying to live by the golden rule and do unto others. But I was doing it out of a place of fear because I didn't want to go to hell. It wasn't because it was what I thought was right, or it's what I felt inside to be right. And it's not because I felt better about it. It was just because I was scared. I was like, oh no, I have to do this. So I just wanted to bring that up and talk about it because we get a lot of these questions and I see a lot of people talking about the tarot. And I always say, listen, if you think the tarot is evil, it's fine. You don't have to use it. And I would say probably stay away from it because there could be unresolved issues with inside yourself that might cause you or might cause a little bit of harm to you if you use the tarot, because you might start to see what you want to see out of it. It's like, oh no, this is what it's telling me. It's telling me that I have to go buy a Porsche and I have to get rollerblades or whatever. So that's the best way I think I could describe it in that sense. And I understand, like I said before, I had the point of view where it was evil and it was just used by tricksters, but it's kind of like a gun. Like you get all these people are freaking out about guns. Oh, we can't have guns. They're so dangerous. Yeah, a gun is dangerous. Right. And you shouldn't use it. Like I tell people,
hands of the wrong person.
Yeah. And I tell people, I might own firearms, but I was also in the Marine Corps. I also have a lot of training with weapons and with guns and stuff like that. And I know how to use them. But just because I have all that training, it could also be one of these things. Like when I first got into guns, I was like, yeah, I want to get guns, and I always want to carry a gun. And I used to fantasize about like, oh man, if something ever happens and I can use my gun and all this stuff and I could save the day. Well, I was using that from the wrong point of view. I shouldn't be hyper focused on the gun. I shouldn't be using the gun as an idol. It's just a tool that's there. And I use the tarot in the same way. You know, if you burned all my tarot cards, it's fine. I wouldn't care. I kind of understand how the concepts work now. But the reason I like the tarot is because you can use synchronicities, because you could just shuffle it and you could pull a card. And just like you have crazy synchronicities, like you didn't see our episode 13 and 13.3 right when it came out. But as you watched it, you were telling us you were going through those things, and it was just this crazy synchronicity that lined up. Well, I use the tarot in the same way, where I just will pull a card and say, oh, wow, this is what's going on. Well, let me see what's going on in my life. And then I could look at the different symbols and say, how can this help me navigate this? Or how can these ideas help me get through it? Because another thing with symbolism and all this stuff is there's so much information that you can consume. It's kind of like your brain it's just so much. So sometimes you forget about these things. So it's another reminder. You pull a card and you're like, oh, here's the temperance card. It's telling me that, you know, life is a balance and you have to pour some water on the land. Oh, that's the star card. Sorry. But, you know, life is this nice balance. You have the two cups with the water flowing in and out. It's like a respite, you know, and it reminds you that there is going to be another day. There's another cycle, because there's always another card that follows it.
Yeah. Something you said earlier reminded me of the recent Fortune Saint Germain episode with Crow, the question and answers. I haven't gotten through it all. I just started listening to the beginning a little bit, but he said something to the effect of like alchemy, because he's an alchemist, right? So he said something to the effect of, just because you have like a recipe for this alchemical process, and let's say you're turning lead to gold, right? And somebody says, oh, I have the recipe, here it is, right? Okay, whoever had the recipe that said, this is how I did it, right? Let's say somebody else takes that same recipe and tries it, but they fail or whatever, and it didn't work. Well, it has nothing really to do with the recipe itself, as it has to do with the person who actually did it, their intentions, their abilities, their level of whatever, wherever they're at, right? So it's actually the person and the intention of the person that is the more important than the actual recipe. So something you said reminded me of that.
Yeah, also their level of belief as well.
Yeah.
I kind of think that this realm that we exist in works a lot on our beliefs. And that's how I believe a lot of these psyops are able to happen. You can even look at it just purely in the physical realm. A lot of people believe that germs will get you sick. Some people believe in terrain theory. You know, we'll just leave it at that. But if you get the most amount of people in society, 90% of people to believe it, well, then they're going to manifest this thing. They're going to see things maybe where they're not. People are getting sick. Maybe they forgot that everybody got sick in 2019 and 2018 and 2017. Maybe they just forgot that people got sick. So then their TV screen tells them this thing. And then once people start getting sick, they're like, oh, this must be it, because it has to do with their belief. And I think in the same way, it's possible. I mean, I've never turned lead into gold. I mean, I wouldn't be here in a lovely basement if I could, or I probably would still be. I'd probably just float all. But and the other analogy I wanted to bring up, where a lot of people I think will resonate with, because a lot of people, you know, we all met through Owen Benjamin and BTA. If you think about it this way, YouTube, right? Lovely YouTube. Thank you for letting us premiere the show. We love you. But a lot of people will say that they're funded in part by the government, right? So you have somebody like Owen Benjamin and they kick them off constantly. Well, why are they kicking him off? Because Owen Benjamin is offering this different way of life. He's highlighting this way of life where you're not a slave to their system anymore. You're relying on yourself. You're relying on people around you. You're getting a lot back to nature. You're living a lot more in accordance with nature. I think how humans probably should live. I'm not saying he has all the answers, right? No one person does. But if an entity that's funded by the government sees this and they see somebody that's buzz killing all their cool psyops that keep people in line and pay attention, they're going to kick them off. Same thing with Constantine or your priests or people that are heavily invested in quote unquote religion and what the Bible says literally, right? They're invested in a lot of this. So in their point of view, and the people higher up, if tools like the tarot and astrology or all these other things used correctly from somebody who knows what they're doing, if that's going to help you to not be their slave, then yes, they're going to demonize it heavily. They're going to kick them off of their YouTube. That's basically what happened. Because I really feel, you know, if you look, I don't want to make claims or whatever, but if you look closely at the Bible and what Jesus was talking about, he's talking about a lot of this stuff. And he might have used these different tools in the symbolism in the same way. Maybe the tarot didn't exist how we know it, but say he was using these, the Pharisee, right? The people who want to control, they're going to ban it right off of that YouTube. You know, they're going to kick Jesus off of YouTube. It's the same kind of thing in my mind. So I just wanted to bring that analogy up.
I don't know. I just had this memory of like Jesus, like lifting the tables out of the temple and like turning them over. The rage.
Yeah, exactly. And that's another thing that, see, you were talking about like all is love at the beginning, which a lot of people might misconstrue that. I know I misconstrued it when I first heard it, because like, well, what if somebody's coming at a knife with me or trying to hurt my family? Am I just supposed to love them? Well, I think there is a way to still have love for them, but to also deal with them properly. Because just like we were saying in the Bhagavad Gita, we were talking about that last episode. Krishna says to Arjuna, because Arjuna is faced with this whole army that he has to fight of people he knows, but they're on the wrong side. They're not supporting truth. So he has to battle against them. So I think in the same way, if someone's coming at your family, even if you have to use self-defense and deadly force and you have to deal with this person, you don't have to do it from a point of view where I hate you. You're such a piece of shit. Why are you coming at me? I'm going to kill you. And you like get this rage and you start to get like rage porn. And I mean, I know, cause I'm a guy, I broke things. That's just the way I do. And you just get this feeling, but I don't think that's how you have to do it. You could still keep this person in your heart. You could have empathy for them. Even if you have to end their life, you could still have it from this point of view where you have empathy, where you could say, hey, this guy's a crackhead. You know, maybe his dad beat him and somebody raped him when he was a kid and all this stuff happened. And he's just beyond existing in a normal society. He's coming at me with a weapon, but I don't have to hate him. I could just understand his situation and then still deal with it. And I'm not saying I'm at this point. I'm not like some saint that's up here who's saying I could do that. I don't know what would happen. I'm just saying, I think this is what I've gotten out of the different texts that I've read and the different stuff that I've seen. So you could still use that rage, that righteous anger, right? And you could still flip those tables, but you don't have to take it personally. You don't have to hate all these people because they're doing it. You could just show them, because I think a lot of that too, that rage is sometimes it's about setting boundaries. You know, Jesus saw this boundary that was just, everyone was like, screw this. We're just in the temple. We're doing all this usury and all this stuff. And he's like, no, this is not okay. And I'm showing you that it's not okay. And I'm going to flip your tables.
Yeah. Good point. Something that you said, it always reminds me of the movie Avatar, when you have this, like, you can have love and compassion and empathy, but you still have to do what you have to do. Like, you have to still have your boundaries and defend yourself and things like that. But you can still see other people or other creatures with empathy.
Yeah, this is like really high level stuff. You know, I'm not saying, like I said, again, I'm not an expert with it, but
right. And I mean, Avatar is not exactly great example, but it reminded me a little bit about it.
Oh yeah, no, I think it is a good example too. And then in movies, that's why we're drawn to this stuff. That's why we're drawn to quote unquote different religions, because there is this truth in it. And it does resonate. And we're like, we want to line up with the truth. Like the first Matrix movie, I must have watched it a million times. I'm like, this is great. But there are certain pitfalls in there. And because I think we are we're treated like children our whole life. We're basically put into these schools, and they're not teaching us how to live. They're just teaching us how to be good slaves, and they keep us at this lower level that everything's physical. That's all that matters, is this physical realm, whatever you could touch, your emotions and the way you feel about the world and your feelings inside, they don't matter as much. That's what they try to tell you anyway. But I think after certain people try to live that way for so long, they just get to a point where they can't do it anymore. And that's when your higher self, call it God, the all, Odin, whatever you want to say, right? It just comes into you, and you're able to get this sight and see everything as one and see that it's all not true. And that's when the veil comes down, right? And you can see the truth for itself. And it doesn't mean you always exist in that spot. You're just able to go to the next level, to work on the next thing. Because if you were able to work out all your trauma that you had and all these issues, maybe that's when you become some kind of ascended master. But we all go through all this crap in our life. So we get over one hurdle, and then we just smack, just like that, like that meme I keep telling you about with the spiritual ego and the ego. We just get back into another spot where we have to work our way out. And you could look at it as it's suffering or it sucks or whatever, or you could just look at it as a fun challenge. And you could, you're probably going to look at it like I do. Some days it sucks. Some days it's a fun challenge, nothing's perfect. But I think really that's more about what this life is about. And it's about navigating through these and really just trying to live the best life that you can and just be the most positive to people around you. And another thing I'd say about the tarot is, if it's not for you or you think these ideas are crazy, that's fine. Whatever, like they say, there's a saying, there's one mountaintop, right? And there's different paths up it. So if you're living in accordance with natural law and whatever is working for you, if it's Christianity or whatever religion is working for you and you're happy, that's great. I'm glad. But there's a lot of people that aren't, and there's different things that work for people. It's kind of like Owen with the whole Trinity thing, where it doesn't make sense to him and he just can't let it go. And other people like, oh, you have to see it. You have to see it. For him, that's not his, obviously, unless he has some other epiphany, that's not his path to the mountaintop. It doesn't make sense to him. So he has to find another way. And the same thing for me, certain things didn't make sense. And when I was going along with it, I felt fake inside. And I just wanted to feel the truest. And this is just the path that I'm on that allows me to feel true to myself inside, So I would say the number one thing here is really just about judgment. It's when I start to judge people, now I try to stop and I try to look inside and say, okay, why am I judging these people? What is it about myself that I don't like? Because the exterior world, this is something we want to talk about too, which is everybody has heard of as above, so below. And then the next line is as within, so without. And what I'm finding that the as within, so without really means is that depending on how you feel inside, it's going to manifest on the outside world. And then if you're seeing things in the outside world that you have a problem with, it could be a clue to things in the inside that you're not okay with. And instead of doing what Alex did and being honest with himself, I've seen it, I've done it myself, you attack what's wrong in the outside world and you try to fix that. You try to fix what's going on outside, and you judge other people and you say, how dare you? I'm so much better than you. I do this and you're such a dumb idiot. You're wearing a mask, you're taking these experimental medical serums, all your boosters and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, I found that if I could just look inside, there's something inside me that isn't okay with the world or the way it is. And then who am I to judge, right? If you believe in God, God created all of this. So he has some plan that I'm just not aware of yet. And I just have to work on myself, because honestly, that's really the only thing I can do is work on myself and just be a better version of myself to be a guide for other people. That's how I see it.
Yeah. I really wish that we had that quote written down that you sent me in the audio format of Ram Dass, when he's talking about like how to truly love somebody what was it about? Like true compassion or true
Well,
loving
basically
someone?
the crux of what he was saying that I like is he's like, if you see somebody doing an action or whatever it is that you don't like and you try to confront them, no matter what level, if you're not okay with it, they can sense it. And the way that people are, if you have this sense of what they're whatever they're doing is not okay, they're immediately going to sense that. Or even if you say it to them and they just become defensive and they go right into attack mode. So instead of that, he was saying, just be okay with it. Just accept it for what it is, because it is the truth. However they're acting is the truth, and they have to figure it out for themselves. And as long as they're not hurting you or people around you, and you know, again, I keep bringing this up because that's the new age trap. All is love. It's fine. Well, we're all one. We'll just be here, and whatever, you kill me, I kill, you know, that's, again, it's just another trap where there is a bit of truth there, but it's just being used to control people, to keep people docile and in non-action. So in this other way, and that's why I like Ramdas, because he's not exactly, he's associated with the New Age movement, but if you listen to everything he says, it's not totally, I guess you could say it's not exactly New Age, because he does talk more about the truth, feel somebody says, and that's what he's saying. It's just about accepting people for who they are, letting them be that way. You work on yourself, and nobody accepts these. Most people don't get accepted fully by their people. And when they come across someone who does accept them fully for who they are, then they're able to look at their own actions and they're saying, well, maybe there is something wrong with me because this guy's doing it this way and he seems to be okay, or however it comes out. But that's basically, I think, the gist of what he was saying in that quote. We could even bring it up in the next episode.
Yeah, we can. And I think I remembered that it was about creating a safe space for somebody. Like, how can you be a safe space for someone? Yeah,
exactly. In the right way, not in a way where, oh, we're not going to make fun of these people and all this stuff. No, it's just a way that you're
non-judgment.
Yeah, from a place of non-judgment. You could still not agree with people are doing and all this stuff, but you could, again, empathize. And the way you do that, instead of judging them, there's a million ways to do it, but the way I do it when I try, and I'm not trying because I love to judge people. It's like my favorite thing to do, especially as like a comedian and all this stuff. There's so much humor.
Criticizing.
But when I'm trying not to criticize and judge, I could just start to say, just like the example of if you're in line and someone's at the grocery store and someone's in front of you and they're taking forever and it's all this shit, you could focus on that. Or you could just say to yourself, oh, maybe this cashier is having a really bad day. Maybe the person in front of me, maybe their wife just died and, they've never been shopping before. They don't know what the hell they're doing and they don't even know coupons and they're just trying to do their best because they have hungry kids at home or freaking out and they're texting them. You could come at the world from that point of view. And again, as long as no one's crossing your boundaries and trying to harm you, like you're just looking at it from a different point of view. And it takes all of that, trying to solve the world's problem off your shoulder. Because I don't think that's what we're here to do. I don't think we're here to fix the world. We're just here to fix ourselves and work out. The world is actually, like Alex said, this life is a gift. And I'll say that the world is a gift. All this horrible stuff that's happening, this crazy stuff, is actually a gift for us to align our behaviors with the golden rule. It's a way for us in every moment to make that decision. What am I going to do here? Am I going to judge this person? And that's what the whole thing is. What would Jesus do? And it's actually not a bad way to look at it. What would Jesus do in this moment? Let me try to be more like that historical figure, that representation of a person who lives
the golden rule.
Yeah, the golden rule. Exactly.
Yeah. And it just reminds me as well of something that just happened to me. Remember, I was telling you that this lady from the church I used to go to reconnected with me. I pretty much knew it was going there, but it was kind of like checking up on me to make sure that your cup. Yeah. Checking up on me to make sure that I was still kind of like churchy and going to church and, reading the Bible or whatever it is that she thought was best for me. Right. And it was funny because when I replied to her finally, because she asked me, oh, what are these, what have you been up to lately? And I replied to her, and I felt like I was a little bit vague, but I was still saying stuff that apparently like kind of triggered her, but not really. You know what I mean? Just like, I think I said something to the effect of, well, I just kind of right now, you know, I'm just living my life in such a way that, you know, I don't, what I say, those who know don't speak and those who speak don't know. And I said that without any saying who it was, where I got it from, nothing. I just said, you know, that's kind of, because I said, you know, that's my show over Sharon. But I said, you know, even though, you know, those who speak don't know and those who know don't speak, we still overshare our experiences, you know.
We're still trying to figure that one out, everybody.
Yeah. So I said that to her. And then I didn't really, you know, I didn't know what she was going to say. Well, when she replied, it was kind of like, she was still nice, but it's that nice of like, that's why that quote that you just sent me from Ram Dass about like how to be a safe space for somebody. I was like, oh, she's trying to reel me back in by her judgments that I'm no longer Christian. And, you know, you really should come back to Christ and you really should. And she's like, said some, you know, she's tried to be nice by saying it, but in all that, she was still judging me. And she was putting me in a place of like, you're pretty much bound to hell because you're not going in the direction that you used to be going. All of a sudden, you're like going somewhere else. I can see that some of the things that you're saying, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, I haven't replied, but I'm definitely I want to write down that quote from Ram Dass about creating a safe space, not necessarily to quote him, but to kind of say the same thing to her, but not like, I'm just going to say that that's how I'm living my life, not to say that that's not how she's living her life. Right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Well, I'm living my life this way, where I don't judge people for how they're, you know, and I don't see things that way anymore or whatever. So, but,
well, really quickly, another way you can view it too is you can have compassion for her because, okay,
right.
not to judge you, but you're like, she's judging me. And by saying that, you're kind of judging her and I'm judging you.
Right. And I get that.
No, that's fine. I'm not like here to like light you up with it. But what I'm saying is that's a great example. So what you could do now is say, well, you can think to yourself, you can do a thought experiment. Well, why is she doing this? Well, maybe because she is genuinely concerned for me. Maybe she is.
There is definitely the fear going on. And that's the sad part. Like,
well, it doesn't have to be sad though, right? So if you look at it this way, it's from a place of compassion. It could be that she has compassion for you and she doesn't want you to go to hell because she likes you. She knows you're a really good person. So she wants you to be on the right path. She might just have a misunderstanding. That's how you could that's one way that you can view it, you know?
And you're so right. You're so right. Absolutely.
But anyway, I wanted to, I don't know if you had more, but I did want to get back to Alex because
absolutely. I want to get back to Alex too.
I want to talk about, first of all, the people in that cafe must be like, what the hell are you listening to? These guys are geniuses. No, I'm just kidding. What is that channel?
If they can understand us.
It's over Sharon on YouTube, Brandon Bonanza on YouTube. No, I'm doing commercials. So what I was going to ask Alex, though, when we want to talk about is, so after you had this awakening, you were talking about this moment of bliss, right? And in viewing the world. So I want to hear more about that, I guess you could say, about and how you're kind of, and it doesn't matter that you don't have the words anymore and you can't exactly remember it and that you're not in that spot. It doesn't matter to me. I just want to know now how you've used this experience and how you're going forward now with it and stuff like that.
Yeah, I haven't really thought how I'm going forward, but you know, whatever I'm doing without any fear.
Right.
Yeah, that's another thing, because before it was like, oh yeah, but what about so-and-so's feelings? Oh, what about this? Oh, how will I get this done? Now it's just like, I just feel like I can do it. You know, I'm not in a better position money-wise. I'm exactly the same as I was before, but I don't feel like I have these blockages anymore. It's like, I feel like I have this kind of momentum that if something doesn't follow, it'll just kind of fall off. You know, it's a bit scary, you know, for others around me, but I mean, it is what it is, you know. But can I just add something? Because you know, as we tend to do, I was like thinking about what you were saying about education and everything, and it's amazing that in school there's less and less education about what we're actually aware of. So I kind of had in my mind this pie chart, like a circle, a pie chart, where some of the slices are, you know, frequencies, some of the slices are the tarot and how to use it to your advantage. And so many slices that are useful, like color and felt experience and everything else, is like being taken away from any kind of education gradually, you know. And then what you're left with is just pure nonsense. And it's a shame, but I can see it. I can see it happen gradually over time, you know. But also maybe there is some time in the future where it's just some kind of thing that happened to me, like the end of a grand cycle, could kind of shed light on absolutely everything, and then, you know, all these tools might be available once again, just like that, you know, within maybe just a generation or two. It will be amazing if, you know.
Well, don't say if, say it will.
And I'll just say that, you know, I'll even add that it's okay, because I feel most people in the society where we find ourselves, it has to be that way, because people need this direction, or we can even call it, you know, I call it slavery. They need this mental slavery. A lot of people, and this isn't really a judgment, it's just a true fact, because, you know, everybody's like, oh, screw the government, or screw the police, or I want to get rid of all this stuff. It's like, we're not at that stage. Most people in this in this world, or in this realm, aren't at that stage yet. They need this support system of the government. They need to learn how to get along, or they are going to probably just end up homeless on the street, or they might end up in an insane asylum, or whatever it is. They're just not going to function. They can end up in a bad spot. So I think that it's just an opportunity for everybody. And I feel that's kind of where everything is headed. Eventually, maybe everybody will get this, or maybe this is just the way it is, and it goes on in, I guess you can call them souls, come here to overcome what they have to overcome, and then they go on to some other level, and this is just maybe some kind of training ground or something like that. It's a way for people to get over all the stuff that they've been through, and to align their thoughts, emotions, and actions with the golden rule and with the way things are going to be. So that's why I don't even really feel bad for people, because as you were saying before, even physical death is just it appears to be just a cycle, and there's something after it. We all believe that there's something after it, so we shouldn't fear it, and we shouldn't fear for other people, because they have their own path and their own struggle. It's kind of like if you were say you were playing football and you were like a senior in high school or whatever, and you get these freshmen that come in and they have no idea what's going on. They have to go through all the different things. They have to go through the training, and they have to go through all these bad times and the things that you went through. And the only thing you could really do, it's the same kind of thing. I mean, I don't have any kids, but I would imagine it's the same thing as being a parent. You can't experience your kid's life for them, even though they are going through things you went through, and you try to tell them and warn them. The only thing you can really do is be there for them as a guide, I guess. I guess that might be a bad example, because, you know, you do have, or
a friend.
You know? Yeah, you have to discipline children and stuff like that, but you could just be there as a mentor, and be there for people as a guide, I guess, or as a beacon. But again, everybody has their own way of doing that. So
yeah, fascinating stuff. Yeah. Okay, so not if, when.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's what a lot of these psyops are about, because I feel that if what happened in 2020 didn't happen, a lot of more people might have woken up to different truth, because it's out there and it's permeating and people are starting to feel it. That's why there's a lot of shift, I believe, toward a lot of these new agey ideas, because it's making more sense to people. So it's just like Constantine. He had, or, you know, him and all the Pharisee and all the people back in the day, they kind of were paying attention to what's going on. You know, they opened their window, they could see up, the weather's changing, people's ideas are starting to change. We have to get kind of out ahead of it, but still kind of leading it from behind. So I feel that's really what's going on right now. We're kind of going through that similar kind of shift. A lot of people are using these new age ideas as traps. And that's why when people raise the alarm about the tarot and stuff like this, I understand where they're coming from, because it could be another tool or another trap for people. But again, I would just say that if that's your train of thought, it's more about, well, where are you at? You know, get back to you and getting back to that mountaintop. Because if you get to the mountaintop, then people could see you up there and they're like, oh, it's possible. I could get up there. I might not be able to follow his path. You know, maybe that boulder he climbed over fell down and now I got to go a different way. There's a cliff there I can't manage, but I could figure out my own way. If he did it, I can do it too. Or you could sit at the mountaintop on top and just criticize people and tell them that they're terrible and that they're evil and they're never going to be able to make it up. You got to go the way I went, you know?
Well, then that's what you were telling me was the like falling into the spiritual ego, where you think that you're so spiritual that you know, oh, well, I know everything now. Exactly.
And one last thing I want to get in before about the tarot is we all have this idea that evil can't create, you know, evil can't create everything. It's only God that creates. It's not the devil or not Satan or not the evil one. So if evil can't create, then who created the tarot? You know, you can only obfuscate, you can only invert things and lead people astray with the truth, but it's still the truth, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not saying the tarot specifically, I'm just saying these concepts and these ideas.
Yeah. So Alex, you have any thoughts or any other comments about how you're feeling?
I thought I would be more prepared for this, actually.
It's okay.
It's
how dare you?
How embarrassing. I'm on the Sharon show and I'm lost for words.
You can't even overshare. That's what the whole show's about.
You can't even overshare. What's the point?
How did that happen? No, I'm just kidding. No, you're fine. Yeah. I remember you're you know, a couple of days ago when we were talking, you were just very, and you said this already, but you were very, just, I don't know, in awe of the state of the feeling that you were in. Like you said, you had no fear. You weren't worried so much about what you were going. Hey, you know what I just thought of? Do you want to talk about anything like any syncs that happened afterward, like with like, I remember you telling me about visiting a place, and then there was a lot of syncs with that or regarding that. If you wanted to talk about that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what I've been doing, I mean, for the past, can't remember, like 2.5 years. Well, no, since forever, I've always wanted to be surrounded by nature, because even the previous houses I rented, they were like engulfed in greenery. And I even went an even further step and collected all these pots and all these plants and all this chaos. I liked the kind of natural chaos, you know? And I always encouraged any kind of little flowers or weeds that came out of a crack or something, you know? So I always like went a bit crazy with all that. And since the whole Rona thing, it's been very difficult to find a place to kind of move to. Because, I mean, I'm in a small town, relatively small. I mean, it's for Greek standards, it's actually a city, you know? But it's not very easy to find what I'm looking for anymore, because, you know, everything's becoming more, you know, high tech, everything's becoming like apartment-like. So I'm feeling this strong urge to really find something, even though like for my significant other, it's going to be inconvenient. And I'm kind of telling myself all these years that, yeah, okay, I'm okay with it. You know, I suppose sometime in the future I'll find some place that will be closer to nature, affordable, and with all the things that I portray through my music videos, like all the chickens and like doing stuff and planting more things and getting my hands dirty and everything. You know, I've always fantasized about not only returning to a more natural way, but going that extra Bertaria step styles, step, but yeah, it hasn't really happened to me. So like with a friend of mine, he said, do you want to come for a ride? Because I've got this appointment, so the appointment he had is one of my favorite places, which is not far from town. It's like 15 kilometers away. That's like what, 12 miles, whatever. So if I got that conversion right. Anyway, so I'm like, yeah, I've got some free time and it will be good for me because I like that area. And when you have the appointment, I can just, wander around and just stare and look at nature and everything. It's got all these tiny waterfalls coming out of the rocks. And it's really green, throughout the year. It's really beautiful there. It's like a small oasis, And I remember him telling me that he has this friend that they have a family house, and because they were renovating the upstairs floor, imagine it's a large place. Like, I don't know how many square feet, but I mean, it's a large, complicated looking house, with a few levels here and there and everything. And he told her that she's contemplating, renting it out and everything. And I wasn't thinking before we got there. I wasn't really thinking about it. So he gave her a call. She said, yeah, you guys come over, I'm like, okay, we're about to look at a house now. I mean, I'm going through all this change in my life. What's the harm of going to see this, friendly house? And yeah, so we went down the driveway, down a small hill, which was like left and right. Everything was green, so you couldn't really see where you were going. So we reached this house, which was an accumulation of all the possible things I've fantasized about, all in one, So we park the car. She comes to greet us, and imagine we're talking about Greece and village people, where it's like either you'll bump into really scared people wearing a mask, or you'll bump into really based people. So these were really based people. So like they stuck their hand out to do a proper handshake, and I'm like, wow, I've missed the natural handshake instead of, what do you want, the fisting, or you want what? What do you want?
Fisting.
So this was beautiful. So I mean, I was greeted by chickens. What do you call them? What are they called? Turkeys. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. To the right was this beautiful. Yeah. By the way, guys, I'm dangerously low on battery, so
okay.
I should move along and try and find a charging spot somewhere around here. Mind you, I'm in a cafeteria which is closed down, and I'm just hoping there's a in their garden there's a AC somewhere. Yeah, sorry for the darkness. I'm walking through this closed, very picturesque cafeteria at the moment, but you can't see that.
No worries.
So what was really beautiful is that they were so open-hearted, so warm people, so relaxing to be with, and that just hammered in what I felt and what I was hiding from myself, and just mainly from myself. I don't want to say I was lying to other people, because the most hard-hitting thing was that I was doing it to myself,
Yeah.
And this, I don't know, this beautiful experience. I mean, it's like I spoke with these people. It's like it's super affordable. They don't have they're not planning on. Oh,
you want to turn your camera off, maybe, and maybe just audio? I don't know if that'll help.
Okay, I'll try that. Okay, so
Can't hear you, but maybe the battery died.
Oh no. Oh no, Mr.
Dun,
Bill.
dun, dun.
That's all right. I think if you want to, we were talking about synchronicities here, and I think that the big point was all this change that Alex was going through. It just kind of started to work out for itself. It's like I was talking about in the last episode where I was in the middle of the ocean, and I was swept out to sea. I was just up to my knees right in the water, and then I got sucked out into the ocean, and there's no lifeguards or anyone around. And I found that like there was no way out for me. I really thought there was no way out, and I started to panic. And this is something I didn't mention last time, but I consciously decided to myself, I was like, all right, well, this could be it. I could die, and I accepted it. I'm like, well, if this is the way I go, it's kind of fucking funny. It's kind of weird that I'm just going to drown in the ocean, but so be it if that's going to be it. And then, but I don't want to give up. I'm just going to keep trying. I'm going to keep going, even though I can't see one literal away unless somebody has a boat or something and they come save me, which we were near a beach and it was just me and my friend, so but after a while of just keep trying and doing the right thing, I hit the sandbar in the middle of the water, and I was able to just walk several hundred yards or however it was between these two crazy undertows that were going on each side of me. I was able to just walk right back into the land. And I feel like that's kind of what's happening for Alex right here, because he just described this place that's like perfect for what he wanted. I mean, it makes me want to go to Greece right now. Be like, hey, you need a roommate? I'm on my way. So I think it's really beautiful that that he was able to find that in just such a synchronistic way. Like his friend just like, hey, you want to just go for a ride with me? And then all of a sudden he finds a place where he could possibly move to and possibly live. And it just goes to show that we have no idea what's in store for us.
Yeah. And once you make that move or that epiphany, you have that epiphany and you just roll with it, the solutions will appear. Like you don't have to, there's no fear. You don't have to worry because something will appear and it will happen. And you're talking about your near-death experience, kind of, right? Not the type that most people think of, but I can relate because of my own, when I would talk about the laryngospasms, and like I would just keep doing what I was doing, pretending like I was holding my breath and then testing again to see if I could breathe, and just doing that without panicking. And the solution was that the spasm was going to let go and I would be able to breathe again. And I just had to trust that it was either that or I was going. And, I always used to say to people, like, however God wants me to go, that's how I'm going to go. Like, what am I trying to prevent by doing certain things? Like, oh, I have to, be careful, carry your gun everywhere with you, do all this stuff. It's like, I can be, to a certain extent, I can be as careful as I need to be, but not so overly worried, right? Because it's also like that kind of egregore type thing where like you think about it so much that it's probably going to happen to you, if you're worried about it so much. And, it's funny because I was talking to Alex about this a couple of days ago when we were talking, and I don't know, I can't remember why it came up, but I know it might be kind of a controversial thing or a controversial discussion, but when people are so worried and they say things like, well, make sure you have your gun next to your bed. And, there have been people walking around the neighborhood doing this, that, and the other, like, you just be careful. And, I just think to myself, I don't see that as part of my karma. Like, I just don't see that as happening to me. And could it be that because I don't, that it won't? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, Well, you think about it in this way, just in nature, right? A lot of times predators go after weak prey, like a wolf. If it's going after the caribou, it's going to go after the weak one. They usually will weed them out, just like a shark. A shark is attracted to like motion on the top of the water, right? If it's something that's hurt or injured. And if you have all these thoughts in your head that you're a victim and that all these things can happen, then you start to live that way. And people don't realize you actually start to put that out. And my parents would say that to me all the time about, oh, you're going to Las Vegas. Like I used to go to Vegas all the time. Like, you got to be careful. And it's like, no, I'm not a victim. I mean, things could still happen to me, random violence, I'm sure. But if I'm out there and I'm just not acting like a victim, there's other people that are probably going to be
gravitating toward that. Yeah.
They're going to gravitate toward that because, I mean, I probably told this story where I was walking with a friend of mine in New Haven, and we're walking from one bar to like a club, and it was like a dark area. And this guy came up to us, and he was definitely a car thief looking guy. And he was like talking to us, asking these weird questions. And I was just like, he's like, oh, what are you guys doing? I'm like, oh, we're just going over here. I'm like, yeah, we're off duty cops, and I just stayed calm and cool. And I was with, my friend White Dion.
That's flipping hilarious.
Yeah. And he was like, oh, okay. And he just left because we weren't scared. We weren't intimidated by him. And we didn't have any fear. And people that prey upon other people, a lot of times they're going to go after the fearful people because they know they're the ones that aren't going to be a problem. He doesn't want to mess with somebody who isn't showing any fear at all. So I think that has a lot to do with that. It's like a vibration that you're putting out there, or whatever, however you want to say, a frequency that you're on. You're just on that frequency. Like, listen, nothing's going to happen to me. It's the same thing with like a sports team. I remember I used to play basketball, and I was never really that good when I played, but our team was really good. And we would just go into these games and we would just destroy people because we just had this like, we're fine. It's going to be fine. We're just going to kill these people. And we would just go in there and, like beat these people by like 30, 40 points and stuff. And it's, but one time we were so cocky about it and we just let it go too far, and we had to experience that death. And we got our asses beat one time really bad because we were just cocky. So it's a fine line. It's not like you're out there walking around with all your money hanging out and you're like, oh, no one's going to touch me. It's more like, nah, I just don't have fear of it. So yeah. I think we can wrap up this episode. I mean, Alex could still come back. You never know.
Yeah. Keep your eye out to see if he does come back.
Yeah, definitely. I have the mouse right in the spot. If he does, I could just click it to admit him. I'm willing it. But the last thing we wanted to talk about, or one of the things we really want to talk about, was going back to division. Because if somebody doesn't agree with the tarot or what we're saying, or these different ideas about God or whatever, I would say it's kind of like, if you say you're not a Muslim, but you're a Christian, but you still like their ideals, or either if you consider yourself heathen adjacent, if you're looking at somebody's behavior and how they're acting in the world and what they're doing, and as long as it's lining up with the golden rule and with natural law, or however you want to say it, if they're not out there hurting anybody, they're not doing any harm to others, they're living in accordance with life, or in accordance with these rules, I think that, in my opinion, is more important than their actual belief system. It's the same thing as there's one mountaintop, but many ways to the top. How are they conducting themselves? Are they overall a good force in this realm? Are they helping people? Is it from a genuine place of really wanting to live by that golden rule? And if it is, I think that's really where you could just let it go. That's fine. Because if you get in there and you nitpick about their ideas and you think they're on the wrong path and all this stuff and they're going to hell, and it's more of this division that we talked about on episode 11 and 11.11. People are just focused on the wrong things, in my opinion. Does this dude have a garden? Does he have some chickens? Is he having kids or whatever? Is he trying to look for a family? Is he living right? How does he make his money? Is he not hurting other people? Well, I think that's
living in accordance with nature as best as he can. Is he trying to approach that?
Yeah, exactly.
Natural law.
I think that's a much better way to, I guess you could say, judge somebody, or judge if you want to associate with them, we could say, right? If you want to be associated with them, I think that's a higher level. And that's something that Owen Benjamin kind of does, because people listen to him. They're all kinds of different people. You have Christians, Muslims, Jewish people, all this stuff, and they all get it. Not everybody listens to him, but you know, this group of bears or whatever, people on like Beartari Times, a lot of these people, they get it and they're living this way. And I think that's really what's more important. It's not really about their belief system. Now, if they have questions and they're coming to you and they're asking you about it, and maybe you can help them in that way, I think that's a little better. But as far as nitpicking people's belief system, you know, it's just, it's crazy. That reminds me, I was at the bank the other day and I was making a deposit, and the guy, usually I just do it at the ATM, but I went inside and the guy was like doing it. And then at the end, he's like, oh, he's like, do you know about have you heard about the TD Bank credit card? And I'm like, oh, and I was like, well, my credit's probably not the best. I go, you know what? I don't believe in user anyway, though. So I can't. And he was just like, I don't have an answer for that one. Like,
exactly.
You know, people in sales have all these canned responses for any objections that you might have. But
there's
if you tell
no
them,
response for that one.
I don't believe in user either. Just like, whoa. I'm like, yeah, man, sorry. I'm not a sodomite. No. I'm just
oh, God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, something you were saying earlier reminded me of, I think we talked about it in another episode, but I mean, I know we did, but I can't remember the numbers, what I should say. But it's about, people's qualities or character. Was it what we were talking about? Dating? Is that what we were talking about?
I think the vision we talked about it too. I know for sure.
Okay.
It's more about, yeah, go ahead though.
The quality of people's characteristics or something like that, rather than like their actual, because we talked about that. We talked about how Crow, like, you know, if somebody is not, you know, in line with his view on the realm and what it looks like potentially, he just doesn't even go there. He lets them talk about what they know, and he wants to hear about their thoughts on topics that he doesn't really know about. And so it just reminds me of that. It's just a general respect for other people's views, other people's thoughts. And it just goes in line with other things we were talking about in this episode about how to be a safe space for someone with a non-judgmental attitude. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. I think we talked about this in a previous episode too, about where Crow was saying, like, it doesn't make sense that God would wait all these millennia or whatever, all these thousands of years for your religion to be the perfect one and to be the right one, and everyone else is going to go to hell or whatever. It just doesn't make any sense. So what happens to all those other people, right? And these are the kinds of questions that I had when I was growing up and as I got older, and I was thinking about Christianity. And I just thought to myself, what about everyone else? Because the Bible says things like, or, you know, I should say churchy people say things like, well, what about the people who have never heard of Jesus' name? They don't even know who he is. And like, they'll never be saved. We need to reach those people. I remember like hearing those things and feeling like, oh my gosh, really? Like, well, what happens to those people? And I had to think about it. Like, what happens to those people? Like, is God that effing terrible that he's going to say, oh, you just didn't hear about my son, Jesus. So I'm sorry, but you're just going to have to go there, because everyone who has heard of Jesus and accepted him as the savior is going there, and you're going there because you never even heard his name. Like, it made absolute zero sense to me. And it still makes no sense.
Yeah. Well, so you're just butting up against one of these principles of control, right? That
Exactly.
we're talking about that exists within these different religions. Yeah, that's a very valid question. You know, I don't have an answer for it. I just think that everybody, because when I was in the born again Christian thing, they would always say everybody at least gets one, like everybody gets the chance.
What?
They would say like everybody hears the word somehow, and they have the chance to either go along with it or not. And I think they meant it more in the way of like Jesus, like you were saying, and they can accept him for their savior. But I think it's more like everybody, God works in mysterious ways. He has his way to let everybody know what the right way to live is. And it's up to them with their free will choice to choose if they want to live in accordance with, we'll just say, the golden rule, because I think that's the most important thing. And this will bring us into one of the last things we want to talk about, which is, I was thinking about this last night when we were talking on the phone, how I think that's really the only choice. And that's, if you're living in accordance with natural rule, it just means that you're not a slave. You're not caught up in mental slavery, and you're just living, I guess you could say, for yourself or for nature. You're just living more in accordance with nature if you're living with that golden rule. You can make a choice every day. You'll have these choices that you have to make. And as long as you're staying in accordance with the natural rule, the golden rule,
natural law, golden rule,
natural law, you're not going to be a slave. And no matter how rich or powerful you might think you are, if you're not making these choices that align with the golden rule, you are a slave. You're a slave to something. You're a slave to your own desires. You're a slave to money. You're a slave to porn or whatever, sex, whatever it is, these desires that we have. You're just the slave for your own desires at the end of the day. And then we've talked about this before. When you're doing that, most times there's other people that are going to be taking advantage of that. So they might not directly be your slave master whipping you, but they're going to be benefiting from you not living in accordance with nature.
Yes, absolutely. So slavery.
All right. So we've been going for about an hour and 35 minutes.
Or 40. Okay.
Yeah, that's a pretty good an episode. I think. I know Carrie's going to be upset. She's like, "Why didn't you do a 6-hour episode, guys? I love you." I guess, listen, Carrie, I get it. I want to do 6-hour episodes and hear myself talk for 6 hours too. But I'm just kidding. But I do want to thank Alex, aka OliveTreeBear, for coming on. And I hope he doesn't feel bad that his phone died out, because this was a great episode. I really loved having him on here and sharing his experience with us, especially because what he was going through lined up so much with what we were talking about. It was such a great synchronicity for that, So this is one of my favorite episodes so far, actually. So thank you so much, Alex. I know you're watching right now, so don't feel bad at all. Don't worry about any of that stuff. It was actually hilarious. I got to make a joke about, people at the cafe hearing our awesome show.
I think you might be able to come on just with audio and maybe just to say goodbye or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna see if he can. But totally, really good synchronicity with him, and how he was watching our show at the same time. He's mentally going through these epiphanies and wake ups. It was crazy timing.
Go ahead.
Yeah, because it's like, okay, we had the day that you and I recorded, which isn't always the day that we release the video. And so it could be several days before that. And then even still, he's asleep when we release the videos on Premiere. So he can't see them right away either. So then he has to wait. And plus he's, it takes him some time to get through them because he doesn't listen to them all in one sitting. So by the, few days later that he gets through them, it's like all that timing was like perfect timing. Hi, Alex, you're back. Even if you're just on audio, we're totally cool.
It says
hey, still everyone.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes,
sir.
Oh, guys, I'm really sorry about that. It's very, very silly of me.
No, don't worry about it. We were able to talk about the things we wanted to talk about afterwards to wrap it up anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. We were actually just praising you and saying how awesome you were.
I had to storm back home and use my desktop Zoom. So, yeah.
Yeah, so weird that your microphone it sounds kind of choppy. I don't know why. It kind of probably, not sure why, but
everything seems okay here. 1, 2, 1, 2.
No worries. So yeah, Brandon and I were just wrapping up. We talked a little bit about slavery and what that's all about. And Brandon, you didn't get to do your Rumi quote. Do you still want to read that?
Well, we could read it next time.
Okay. That sounds good. So
Cool. If my audio is too terrible, just please let me know.
We can still hear you, so we're pretty much just going to say goodbye anyway. Is there anything else that you wanted to say or add?
Yeah. Did you want to finish up what you were saying about seeing the animals and just arriving at this place of people who were based people, and if there was anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, well, it's a personal journey, and it's beautiful to be able to just embrace what's going on, and just, even the good moments and the bad moments. These are just a collection of beautiful moments that happened, and are continuing to happen in a few days, like every single day. And it's just a blessing, really. It's just a blessing. But I mean, I don't know if my audio quality is terrible. I mean, I'm embarrassed as it is, just keeping you guys, while I disappeared.
No, you're fine.
Oh, we roll with the punches here. Are you kidding me? This is the Over Sharon show. We know how to keep it going.
We've had technical difficulties all through this session. It was very interesting from the beginning.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, I mean, my phone is getting a bit old. So, I mean, it used to carry on working for a few hours with video outgoing and incoming and everything. And nowadays it's just like from 100% it goes to 0 really, really fast. So I should have known better,
Yeah, no worries.
Well, yeah, it took us like an hour to get going almost, so it's no big deal because of the other technical difficulties that weren't your fault. So it's understandable.
Totally.
Yeah. But I mean, what you guys are doing is really great. And I mean, because I know you guys from earlier and I kind of have respect and love for you, I just kind of started watching the show. But it for me at least, it's getting very, very interesting, And I mean, the more it kind of touches people as well, all these synchronicities, and they embrace the synchronicities. I think they'll start ramping up for everyone, because I don't understand tarot, but there's something going on. There's something to this, something being revealed every single time you guys do something, for sure,
Yay.
So that's fascinating for me. Yeah.
Well,
Awesome.
I'm just really glad to hear that.
Yeah, me too. We were just saying I was saying how this is one of my favorite episodes so far. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing your experience with us. We'll definitely have you on again to overshare some more.
Oh, love that.
Yes,
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, indeed.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Absolutely.
No, thank you guys. Really great to chat and catch up. It's good to see you, Brandon, as well. It's been a while.
Yeah, you too. We have to talk soon.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
All right.
Okay, you guys, I'm just panting because I just stormed all the way back. So it's up to you guys if you want to wrap it up. Anything you guys like,
Shall we, Brandon?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're at that spot. We pretty much nailed everything we wanted to. But like I said, we'll definitely have you on again, and we could speak on this some more as we go. Maybe there's some other stuff that'll hit with you and sync up, and then you'll have to share it with us, overshare it with us, as we say.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. And I thought of a little trick. Maybe we won't prepare for anything, because when I'm spontaneous, things just flow out. But like when I'm, because I mean, Sharon spent a lot of time with me, exploring what happened, and I kind of revealed everything as it was happening. And now I'm having to revisit it. So that's why I'm a bit, a bit slow at times,
Yeah,
I hear you.
Okay.
We're due for a spontaneous episode anyway. Normally we plan everything out and talk about it ahead of time, but especially with a guest, I think we'll be okay to have a spontaneous one, because we'll have 3 different people and 3 different points of views to talk about. So I'm sure there'll be no shortage of content.
Yeah. It's a good idea. Thank you for the feedback.
Yeah, you guys, great stuff.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you guys in the chat so much. Like we always say, Thursday nights are now our favorite night because we love to share this. And last week was awesome. We had so many people in there talking. You know, we had Carrie's in there, Weldon Bear, Phillip, Adam showed up. We had Paraplegic Bear was in there for a while, sharing some knowledge. You know, buy his coffee. I'm going to buy some. I'm going to call him after this. You know, Clem, Josh, all these people that were in there. I don't want to forget anybody. Who else showed up, Sharon?
Del Paxton, Cody.
Yeah, Cody was in there. So thank you guys so much. This is why we do it. And we really love the positive feedback. And if you have any comments, anything we talked about, you want to know more about, just leave it below and we will definitely get to it. And you know, if you disagree with what we're saying, just remember what I said. We were saying this, Alex, when you weren't on. We were just talking about division, how even if you don't agree with somebody's belief system or what they're doing, just look at their actions, look at their fruits. What's coming because of it, you know? And as long as that is okay, I think that's a good enough area to have some common ground. And then we could work on it from there. You know, we could fix the world from there or whatever we want to do, right?
Yep,
yeah,
absolutely.
well said. Yeah.
All right. Well, what do we say to the good people, Sharon? Oh, go ahead.
Before that, I'm just going to say, Quiet Sparky Bear. He's always watching.
Oh, yeah. Quiet Sparky Bear. How could I forget? I'm going hiking with him tomorrow. He's coming with us.
Oh, sweet.
Awesome. And Zerolath, too. Yeah. Thanks, Zerolath. He always has some gravy to throw in there. And he's if you guys don't know, he has a YouTube channel, Zerolath, Zerilath on YouTube. And he's always into these concepts that are very heathen adjacent. So if you want to learn some stuff about that, go check him out. All right. So what do you say to the people, Sharon? What do we say? I mean,
that if you're not oversharing,
then you're totally not caring.
That's
so
right.
keep oversharing, everybody.